All right, time to bring you a roundup of our business news. Now, I'm joined by France 24's Brian Quinn. Brian, hello to you. We've been covering within this edition tonight the news about AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine still needing some tweaking, apparently. Troubling news, of course, for that pharmaceutical giant. What have the markets been saying, or how have they been reacting to that, Brian?
Well, Rochelle, shares in AstraZeneca actually finished the day in positive territory, contrary to what one might expect. They gained just over 0.25% in London. Now, that botched phase 3 study does have some analysts worried about regulatory approval, particularly in the US and the EU. The company, though, is standing by its vaccine, as is the UK government, as we saw there. The first trial saw some number of participants accidentally given half doses for the first of 2 shots. Obviously, a significant screw-up for the trial's perspective, but not necessarily one that calls into question the potency of the vaccine. In fact, it could be the opposite. You add to that the fact that AstraZeneca's formula is probably the cheapest and easiest to transport of the 3 Western vaccines that we have in development right now. And you start to see why investors aren't rushing to ditch their shares just yet. Now, on the wider markets, European indexes all closed slightly higher as vaccination plans worldwide start to get firmed up, especially as also we were talking about Donald Trump is seeming more likely to actually respect the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. And actually, despite the fact that both the U.S. and Europe are still deep in the midst of their coronavirus outbreaks, global stock indexes are having one of their best months ever right now. And that is thanks in large part to vaccine hopes like this AstraZeneca vaccine. Bank of America says around $89 billion have been poured into equity funds during November. That is a record. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up around 13% for the month. S&P and the NASDAQ up around 11% in November. The S&P just set a new record. Investors are definitely looking at the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're continuing to buy in.
All right. Well, Brian, you may not be aware, but today is Black Friday. I say that because in years gone by, you would have seen images of people, clambering into stores. Not the same this year, a rather muted Black Friday, to say the least.
No, and from a contagion perspective, I guess we should be glad that we're not seeing giant crowds all jostling each other at the door of a Walmart or what have you. The pandemic definitely has changed the face of retail in 2020. Black Friday, of course, no exception. In the U.S., we're seeing reports of nearly empty malls, big box stores that have more employees than customers. For those that do show up, there's a lot of safety protocols to follow. Walmart has one-way lanes through their stores. Best Buy is trying to get everyone to do a curbside pickup. The real difference, though, for 2020 has been retailers launching their holiday promotions earlier and earlier in October in a lot of cases, and also leaning even harder than ever on e-commerce. This should be the first ever Black Friday that will see more customers shop online than in person. Around 61% online versus 54% in person. American shoppers expected to spend around $10 billion online today. That's 39% higher than last year. Cyber Monday, after the weekend, expected to bring in just under $13 billion. That's a 35% gain over 2019. Here in France, obviously, Black Friday has existed for since around 2013. The lockdown, though, has led the retail sector to delay its own promotions by a week until December 4th. Last year, Black Friday brought in around 6 billion euros in France. That's 5 billion in-person sales and 1 billion in e-commerce sales. So a bit of a reverse of the e-commerce trend there. But French retailers, of course, have more on their minds right now than just promotion. They're coming back to business tomorrow after weeks of being closed down due to this lockdown. So everyone's going to be keeping a very close eye on retail figures coming out of France this week as they start to reopen.
There will be some excitement here in France as those shops prepare to open on Saturday morning, Brian. A final question with you, Brian, about Black Friday. The company that brought it to France is, of course, Amazon. It is, though, facing the biggest international labour strike ever. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right, Rochelle. Warehouse workers across several countries went on strike today to demand better working conditions, but they also want the company to respect the rights of workers to unionize and to stop avoiding taxes, and also to commit to higher environmental standards. Organizers have dubbed the campaign Make Amazon Pay, as a hashtag to go with it, of course. Actions took place in South America, the U.S., the U.K., here in France, of course. The biggest, though, was probably in Germany, where around 3,000 Amazon workers walked off the job at 6 facilities. Amazon is saying it has a strong track record of supporting employees, safe working conditions, competitive wages and benefits. It's aiming for net zero emissions by 2040. pays billions in taxes, et cetera. It's also now offering holiday bonuses to its frontline workers in a bid to sort of head off these strikes. Germany's Verdi union, though, says Amazon isn't respecting health protection measures there and also is refusing to recognize regional collective labor agreements. And some now reports out of the U.S. are suggesting that Amazon is keeping very close surveillance on its workers to try to head off union organizing. There's been some high-profile firings, in fact, around the beginning of the coronavirus outbreak that were attributed to that. Now, the Make Amazon Pay campaign says they're targeting the company in part because it's done so well during this pandemic. Profits are up 53% over last year. Workers, meanwhile, have seen just a 6% bump in hourly pay since March. Jeff Bezos' net worth now north of $180 billion. Those holiday bonuses for the frontline workers, though, top out at around $300. So obviously a bit of a disparity there.
Just a slight disparity. Brian Quinn, thanks very much for our roundup of the business there.